Welcome to the Ruffells Ad Break, the first of the Ruffells Roughcasts. I'm Tim McInnes, Managing Director. In this podcast, we dig into how the creatives we work with get the most out of every brief to deliver best results for you. At Ruffells, we're all about the people, and when we're working with best in breed, it's easy to get great results. We also reckon that when the majority of our effective brain time is spent at work, you might as well enjoy the ride. Joining us this episode is Lizzie Tollemache, actor, creative director, and director of Rollicking Entertainment. She's created, written, and performed all around the world and has successfully managed to negotiate the business we call show. In this episode, we talk about why we love the tortured artist, how words can get in the way of getting things done, danger, stunts, and risk. But less from me and more from Lizzie.
Ruffells Ad Break. Ruffells Ad Break.
But if you're a creative, it's almost you have a license to do whatever the hell you want, and it's okay. And I feel like it dilutes somehow the work that some of us have done for a couple of decades.
Wow.
Yeah, because I think process is just as important. You need the framework before you can dress it with some lovely clothes.
Yeah, interesting. I don't have, I guess, as many layers stacked on that word myself. I think like I'm the creative director of my company, and to me that fit better than artistic director, which sort of I just felt had a lot of baggage of like it has to be art with a capital A attached to it, whereas you can be creative with an event or with like some kind of slightly wanky corporate awards or entertainment,
Yep.
But yeah, I call myself a theatre maker when it comes to, live stuff. A creative director with my company, and the one that I struggle with, I guess my equivalent of creative is artist. Being like, a theatre artist, a live performance artist, like someone who is in the arts. Because I think I have a lot of the same baggage with that word as you do with creative.
Yeah.
Of, like I'm an artist. Give me all the things. Yeah.
When in this country have you been able to say that and been given all the things?
Absolutely never.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I do often see it, I guess, used as a reason to whine about not having the things, but it should be like this. I've taken no steps to make it like this, but it should be like this, Yeah. And there's also all of those associations, I guess, with the like cultural weight of artists must be mentally ill and starving and struggling and, we love a struggling, starving artist in terms of, like an underdog rags to riches story. We love it.
Yeah.
But that's not helpful for anyone.
It's not. And why do we love it? Who loves it? I mean, I know we love it, but why? What's going on there?
Oh, I think we've loved it for a very long time. And you look at the way that people talk about Picasso and Van Gogh and any of those painters that have like elements of, tortured struggle, anyone whose work wasn't recognized in their lifetimes or who, at least was celebrated significantly more after they died. We love being like, oh, it was so terrible for them, but yeah, like look at what they did. That's no use to them in their lifetime. And I think we love the, perceived romanticism of someone else's pain to create something beautiful.
Yeah, sure. I mean, imagine if you took one of your shows, of which you've written 9.
Yes.
We'll get into that a little bit later on.
Cool.
But imagine if you took one of your shows, didn't sell a single ticket to it, and then we're in crippling debt to whomever. It wouldn't work, right?
Yeah.
So that. And I think that's the thing, that's my thing with creative.
Right.
and I think you're absolutely right. Your artist and my creative are the same.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
You know, it's like because being a creative you still need to be paid for your work. You
Yeah.
still need to be valued for the work that you produce, and
Yeah.
often you're producing it for paying customers, and so they need to get some value out of it. So yeah, I struggle sometimes with how we put words on any number of the parts of the machine or of the circus or whatever you want to call it, and somehow devalues it, I think.
Yeah.
Could be wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
Yes,
also
you're wrong.
no, like overuse as well, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so you just have to look at words which were, you know, brought into the sort of vernacular to be really helpful, and now have, you know, sort of become something else which is quite different to the original meaning. Like, you know, you look at things like triggered, you know, as a word that's kind of been overused at the moment.
Yep.
And you know, it's now unhelpful, I think. Like, people now have a kind of reaction against it. So you can't use it to have any kind of, you know, positive dialogue to get some things done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's talk about your 9 shows that you've
Okay.
written, because they're just the ones that you've written. You've been involved in so many.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Did you have a light bulb moment? Did you have a moment where you sort of thought, you know, I'm in theatre, or how have we worked together? You've been on camera
Yeah.
in advertising. You've been a voiceover artist.
Yeah.
Well, and actually not just us. You've done that for a whole bunch of different companies. You've had actually a really successful career to date.
Thanks.
And it will continue, I'm sure, because of the talent that is inside your brain. But also, if you're involved in all of those things,
Yep.
how do you then decide what's next?
Yeah. So hang on. Are we light bulb question, or are we what's
I don't
next
know,
question?
bit of both. I think they're kind of both though, right? Because is it one light bulb or is it a series of light bulbs?
Oh hell, I think it's a string of festoon lighting. I guess there were a couple of little lights along the string of festoons already. You know, it was all I ever wanted to do, was to you know, perform and make things. So yeah, I'd been doing, like, you know, touring shows in schools and you know, like little regional seasons, and doing some improv and some like tutoring, and got my first couple of, you know, big roles in like professional theatre for adults. And that was all really great and really exciting, you know, in the way that it can only be when you're 20 and going like, the whole world. But I got asked to come and do this show for the Christchurch Arts Festival, which had been commissioned, and it was a sort of circus theatre infused version of Macbeth. And then the earthquakes happened in 2011, the February quakes, and it was supposed to be in Littleton, and then Littleton wasn't really there anymore. So,
and this was Macbeth for the Loons, wasn't it?
Yeah, so the Lone Circus Theatre Company was commissioned to do it for the Arts Festival. But then the venues were no longer available, and so we like built this outdoor set on the corner of what had once been the volcano and the lava bar, and did this outdoor like post-apocalyptic Macbeth, and I was in as an actor, but Skye Broberg, who was one of the performers, she's an amazing circus performer, and the show went really well. We extended the season. She had to fly to Rome to do a Guinness World Records recording. And so the only way that we could extend the season is if someone took over her bits as well as their own. I had 24 hours to learn how to eat fire and like do some of her fight scenes, like big outdoor, you know, tumbly stage combat things. And I did. And the like rush that gave me, and just realizing that, you know, if you've asked people to come and be in a room to experience this moment together, which is what, you know, theatre is, there is nothing quite as electrifying and urgent as when there is an element of danger involved or an element of stunt or an element of, risk, just to make everyone kind of go and being able to create that moment on top of the theatre of it all, that was a huge light bulb for me. And, within a year of that show, I was making work which had, circus and illusion woven into the story.
I love that you so casually mentioned learning to eat fire in 24 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's pretty remarkable,
Yeah, it's not necessarily something I'd recommend, but it worked for me.
Yeah, I suspect there have been a lot of those moments in your journey to date. But is it about being open? Is it about being available to do that? And then what do you take from the training or from the experience that you bring forward into the next role?
Yeah. Well, I think being open, yes, for sure. Also, having a brain that I now realize was in a chronic state of, dopamine deprivation. So, little ADHD brain is constantly looking for like novelty, excitement, adventure, something kind of thrilling and a bit dangerous to be like yum, yum, yum dopamine. So that is a factor for sure in, being like, oh, something unexpected and kind of like a bit risky, which is an unknown quantity. Hello. For sure. And, we also like really thrive on short turnarounds and tight deadlines and, like go really hard on this thing for a short amount of time and then that's done.
Burn yourself out.
I mean, didn't know you're going to come for me on this podcast, Tim.
But I think that is, again, creative industries.
Yeah, for sure.
Whatever that is. So I think that's part of the part, again, without banging on about it. I think that's part of my issue with the creative industries is that it's okay to go really hard, burn yourself out and then crash and not have very much left for the next bit, and then you have to build it up again. So
learning how to not do that is years and years.
Decades.
I'm still learning that very much.
Yeah.
But so I think, that's one of the brightest bulbs in the string of festoons, but God, there's been so many since then, like learning, going to Edinburgh and being like, I'm going to do my first ever circle street show in like one of the biggest festivals in the world.
Yep.
I'm going to, jump in, learn how to do that and then be like, oh, now I'm a way better MC because I know how to, try and navigate all of these variables in this very different environment. Or, going, like I can do this ensemble work with these youth companies and then it makes, it suddenly makes sense with directing, shows with other people and understanding better, how to look at objectives when working with actors or, there's just every new discovery, every new thing to get excited about feeds into the next three things because it's all interconnected, Yep. Like a fungus network that just kind of communicates with each other.
Mycelium.
Yeah,
That's right. So do you think that all of those experiences, so all of those light bulb moments, they then inform the work or they inform how you approach the work?
Both. They inform everything. I'm sure that some people can kind of go, here is the work and here is me, and they're completely separate. But I can't do that. I don't know if you can.
I don't think people can do that.
Right. Maybe some of them just pretend.
I think there's a lot of pretend. I think you get better at knowing when to say enough's enough. I need to leave that alone.
Yeah.
But you have to learn that. You have to work on.
Yeah, for sure.
Leaving it alone.
But I guess, same with I get really frustrated when people talk about values and they're like, oh, here are these professional values and here are these personal values. Like, no, it's the same thing. Like if you have things that are really inherent to the core of you, you're bringing them into every aspect of your life. So similarly, you know, like I taught this course. I was the associate director at Centrepoint Theatre for a couple of years, and I taught this course which was called Improvisation for Life Skills. So it wasn't people wanting to jump up on stage and entertain an audience with improvisation. It was people who, you know, after lockdown were really struggling with being social and had, you know, a lot of anxiety. It was people who'd come out of really bad relationships and wanted to get their confidence back up again. It was for scientists who wanted to be able to present in a room and kind of have a bit better networking and presentation skills. Mm-hmm. And so all these people came in, and getting to, you know, take these skills, which are all about, you know, celebrating risk-taking, which sometimes means failure, and, you know, collective wins as opposed to individual wins, and, you know, resilience and saying yes and to things. Those concepts which I'd been trained in as a performance technique, and then seeing the amazing impact it had on people outside of that, stuff like that, you go, oh, okay, yeah, no, it's all the same. You know, like these creative skills in real life context are incredibly valuable. And similarly, real life context skills are incredibly valuable when you are performing or writing or directing.
It's interesting the conversation's shifted about soft skills actually being fundamental to the success of any operation, right?
Yeah.
And whether that's personal development or whether that's a business, you know, if you can't have those conversations, if you can't have the soft skills, it's not all a spreadsheet. Spreadsheets are useful, but so like knowing how to have conversations with humans. So, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So isn't that interesting then? So you get to go and do that, because your time at Centrepoint was potentially, and I'm not talking in a school, I don't think, but it was potentially not what you thought it was, in as much as there was a lockdown in the middle of it. There was a pandemic. So you had this program of work lined up, and then you had to pivot completely.
It was wild. So I applied for and got the job in December 2019. It was going to be starting in February. I directed the show for the Summer Theatre contract. You know, doing this huge outdoor season of Treasure Island. Got that open, moved to Palmerston North to take up the contract, and within like 2 or 3 weeks of starting that job, the whole world kind of started going like, oh, hang on,
let's close down.
Yeah. And so, you know, I arrived to work on this program that had already been, you know, sort of set and approved. And then very quickly, along with everyone else working in, you know, any kind of live anything, you know, including you guys, obviously, with like, it might be forced screen, but you have to physically be there together to do it.
Yep.
Everything was just
changed.
Completely shifted. Yeah. So the 2 years that I was there were, you know, sort of some of the most bizarre times to be working.
Yeah.
Like, especially coming into my first, you know, like investment client production house salary arts job.
I think that's actually something for the people who are listening or watching. They may or may not know that Centrepoint is one of the 3 professional
production houses
in New Zealand.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, so, it's the only regional one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean we've lost them sort of pretty solidly throughout the last couple of decades.
So it was a great opportunity to be appointed.
Oh my God.
And then...
yeah, it was the only place that I could learn how to be an associate director, which is basically, you know, sort of like a training and development role. So you can then be an artistic director of organisations.
And then the whole world turns upside down.
Oh my God, yeah. So none of what was planned for the year, you know, it kind of just all got thrown out the window. And what was really cool is that, you know, we were like Zooming with the team going like, okay, well, what are we going to do? You know, I was like a month into the role, and so I was like, okay, you know, better pitch some really good ideas, you know, like still got to prove myself here. So like I wrote down, you know, like all of these concepts and these like cool programs and development things. And I like pitched what I thought were the, you know, best 3 to the team during a meeting, and, you know, thinking, okay, cool, well, maybe they'll pick one of them and like collectively we'll, you know, work on it together and someone else will lead it. and my boss went, yeah, okay, great. So we'll do all of those. So let us know how you want to run it. And so
Shit.
it's like, oh. So yeah, it was, you know, a pretty amazing silver lining in a pretty shit situation of next thing you know, I was like had this whole massive digital project that we were going to be running with our youth company who was supposed to be training in person and doing live shows. So this massive like digital theatre project, which we were kind of making, you know, building the aeroplane as we were flying it. Then we were the first organisation in the country. Had this idea for these monologues of matching a playwright with an actor, and then they had sort of 24 hours together, 12 hours of the monologue being written for them, and then 12 hours of that being recorded and uploaded. So you had these 10 original works by playwrights written for specific actors, which, you know, got all these people paid in a time when suddenly there was no money, you know, there were no ticket sales. And then the coolest one was this idea of a playwriting intensive where we would fully funded, so we would have emerging playwrights doing a course, like a 4-week intensive. At the end of that, they would have their short plays, and those plays, when the theatre opened again, we didn't know when that was going to be, we were going to have like 4 short plays a night across 4 Sundays, and a community cast working with a professional director to take this, put it up on its feet in a rehearsed reading sort of performance. And then the audience would record feedback. The playwright could ask questions and they would record them, which would be collated and then sent to the playwright for them to develop it to whatever the next thing was going to be. And that is now in its 3rd year, and it's like a huge part of sort of using the voices and upskilling the Manawatu's creatives.
Isn't it interesting? I think that's kind of what the creative industries do.
Yeah.
Is we go, the world has changed, the market's changed, where people's perceived value has changed, the delivery form has changed, the messaging has changed, and we take all of that information, we assimilate it into whatever the task or the project requires from us, and then we find the right people to partner with, or we have a layer of expectation that we think is going to work out, and then we go and take it to our stakeholders, and those stakeholders then approve or disapprove, and then you have varying levels of risk appetite depending on who's paying for.
It's exhausting
whatever.
Just hearing all of this.
But we manage all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And generally the thing that a client or the stakeholder who holds the purse pockets, they see the beret, they see the colouring in, they see the green screen, they see that stuff. They don't see all of the process.
Oh my God, absolutely.
That is involved.
Yeah.
You know, from ideation through to putting a budget together.
Yeah. And that's such a key thing in like quoting, right? You know, like when you're sending out a quote to a festival or a client or whatever. Yeah. And they only see that little number there, and they only see the time that you're going to be with them doing the gig or on the shoot.
But it's only 4 shows. It's only a 2-day shoot. It's only a, you know.
Yeah, but oh my God. And it's not just all of the planning and the, you know, creation and the lead up to that thing. It's also the years that you've taken to get to the point where you can deliver in that way, slick, professional, good vibes.
On budget, on time.
Yeah.
With bums on seats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who'd do it?
Who would do it? But we're all a bit strange, you know. I mean, I think nobody got into this industry because they loved the idea of a 9-to-5. They loved the idea of a pressed shirt or a pencil skirt. I mean, you know, all of those things are great in the right places, but that wasn't the dream.
I think the only reason to do it, any of it, is if you can't help yourself. You know, if there's something else which would, feed the little goblin in your soul, then do that. This is only if there is something in you which needs it.
But then the truth of it, I suspect, is that it takes people like us who have that need and create the stuff that we create.
Yeah.
And it's the corporates or it's the, straights or whatever, the suit wearers who then go, I need something to differentiate what I'm about.
Yeah.
I need some of what you're offering.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's communicating between those two worlds, right? Because we've both got mortgages.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
But we have to pay those. So that means that we understand that there is a level of process involved, or there's a level of, but you have to have the danger or else.
Well, yeah, just the juicy, joyful moments, Not that you don't have those if you are a corporate person, but getting to be the ones that actively bring the joy and the creation and the
spicy.
Yeah.
Bring the spicy.
Bring the spicy.
We talked before. You've written 9 of your own shows now, and you're saying that the most recent one, which I've not seen, you've probably only written it, haven't performed it yet.
Yeah, it's still in development.
Yeah, it's still in development. But you said that you've sort of finally found your voice. Do you want to talk us through briefly when you're developing those shows and what some of them are? And I know I've seen a lot of them.
Hell yeah.
So I know that they're good, and they're not what I would call. Again, I'm not trying to piss you off.
Yeah, go for it.
I don't think they're typically Kiwi. I think they're much broader than that.
Yeah,
I think they would work and translate across any environment. Perhaps.
Yeah, and they have. We've toured quite a few of them. So we've got a trilogy of children's and family shows with these 2 characters who are clowns. They're cleaners, and they stumble into a world of magic. So their names are Spray and Wipe. And that's sort of like real physical comedy, and that's kind of a narrative show. And it's for kids, but we do have a very high proportion of adults that throughout the show sort of start to let their kid self out, and the next thing you know, you have these dads standing up and being like, don't open the box, and then kind of catching themselves.
Can I just stop for a sec? It's damn near impossible when your children are screaming with such enthusiasm. You would be a heartless bastard if you didn't get involved.
Yeah, well, I hope so.
It's true.
We've got those. Those are the Messy Magic Adventure trilogy. We've got a show called Mr. and Mrs. Alexander, which is about some like con artist mind readers in the New Zealand Gold Rush. The Dunstan Creek Haunting, which is sort of about like ghosty, seancey stuff in New Zealand history. There's 7 Deadly Stunts, which is the story behind sort of 7 notorious, feats of carny folklore. So like we tell the story behind, the straitjacket escape and the walk on broken glass, and then we perform each stunt. Then we've written, so we've got a 5-hander version of Treasure Island and one of King Arthur, which are like really fun, fast-paced, sneakily feminist, but built in there so that there's a little bit of like, oh, you're cheering for politics you might not necessarily agree with, but it's fun, so we tricked you. Just pushing my little queer feminist agenda.
And might I add, they're real like crowd pleaser summer vibe.
Oh,
everyone's
absolutely.
Having a good time.
Outdoor family. Yeah. So we've got those, and then some sort of like variety shows. So though, like we've taken a bunch of those like around Canada and the UK, and taken some of my outdoor street stuff to like Dubai, and we've gone to Australia and blah blah blah. But they're all great, and I'm proud of them. But I was never brave enough to bring myself into these shows. So there was always this divide between, bringing enough specificity, into the like art that I was making.
Such an artist.
Oh my God. And then I had this weird thing happen where I finished up my proper salary theatre job at the end of last year.
I love how you say that with just a mild disgust on your face.
Oh, look, it took a while to get used to
artist.
Sick leave and holiday pay.
Yeah.
What?
What's that?
Anyway.
Holidays full stop.
So I was pretty burnt out, and I think I had been for a long time. And it's that thing where you can only sort of hold the burnout at bay for so long before it starts sort of creeping up. So I got pretty burnt out, left the job, and then over the course of this year, have had this wild ride of getting a late diagnosis of adult ADHD, understanding what the hell that was, grappling with addiction, stuff and quitting the booze, doing a whole bunch of looking into full body responses and complex trauma stuff from childhood, addressing all of that. And it was like a freaking Russian dollar being like, cool, and that one's done. Oh, no, there's more. Here we go. Oh, God, no, there's a whole nother layer. Working through that and then realizing that every time I was talking to, friends about this stuff, and every time that we were, looking at this idea of unmasking, right, which is, it's commonly used with neurodivergent people of you put on, you pretend because you are so afraid of if you show your whole self that, you'll be drummed out of town as a witch kind of thing.
Yep.
That's what it feels like. So covering up everything which is an external evidence of being a certain type of different.
Yep.
And so they use masking in that context, talking about neurodivergence, but then also all of the masking that women do all of the time to try and, take on the responsibility for the energy in a room and to never be the ones that make anyone else, particularly, men, feel uncomfortable. There's this kind of social masking. And then there's this masking that comes into play when you are yes, I had a great childhood, everything was fine, and really need to present this sort of sanitized version. And then again, what you do, if you actually really need to have that glass of wine after work, but then it's never one, it's actually 3, and then it's 4, and you can't have a bottle of vodka in the freezer because you'll finish it. So there's masking associated with all of those things, and then just talking to people and starting to write bits and pieces, and the incredible reaction of people going, yes. And the more specific you get with bringing parts of yourself into it, the more people relate to it, even though you think that you're being very, very specific to yourself. Mm-hmm. So that turned into a show. It's called Swimming Lessons, and I've developed it with Jo Randerson as a script advisor, which is pretty cool because she's pretty fancy. And we've got development workshops for it in March next year. Excellent. And then, we'll be taking it out to market. But
how many hander?
5. So I've got a chorus of fed up women who will we're playing with this idea of the Greek chorus. So
sounds like my household.
Yeah. So if you've got this, this classic Greek plays, the Odyssey and all these kind of things with a, very external, masculine style journey. I'm really interested in some of the most intense, most interesting, bravest adventures we can actually have within ourselves. And so this, kind of subverting bits of that very traditional male structure with what does it look like from an internal lady perspective. So these ladies interrupt and argue and aerobicize their way through the show.
I mean, that could be quite literal. I mean, yeah. I don't know whether aerobicize is just
no, it's literally in there. There is aerobicizing. Yeah. Okay. It's let's look at some trauma in a fun way. That's what it's all about.
So it's still going to be classically Lizzie Tollemache. That's great.
I'm not interested in being hey, here's my pain. yeah, fucking sit down and deal with this. No, absolutely not. Like, it's not a story of darkness. It's like, whoa, here's the stuff. I know brain's weird. And then there was this. And then there was this. Uh-oh, are you relating to this a little bit? Okay. Now we're going to get through it together. And then look, boom, here we are. Still working,
Excellent.
still cranking through. And like, if it helps you in some bits, cool. Because I would have given anything at certain points in my life to have someone articulating what was going on in my brain.
Yep.
And I didn't know the terms for it. I didn't know that it was a real thing. I just thought that I was stupid and crazy and, all this shame that sits there that doesn't need to.
Yep.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing is that you have not only recognised it, but chosen to do something about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And the thing is also, so when I think about, a lot of the work that we do, it's actually very similar to what you've been talking about,
Yeah.
which is reflecting back to whether they're clients or whether that's, it doesn't matter who it is, you're reflecting back to them that there is validation in how they're feeling and what the context is.
Yeah.
And then also not just seeing it, but
Yeah.
then saying, here's a way that we can turn that into a solution.
Yes.
We can turn it into a show. We can turn
Yep.
it into a piece of video content. We can turn it into a billboard. We can turn it into whatever.
Yeah.
So it's all just about taking the time to understand the context, all of the parameters,
Yeah.
and then rather than just sitting on it and going, oh, good, now I'm done, then outputting it
Yeah.
into...
And now how do we turn this into
Yeah,
action and
yeah.
how do we do something with
Yeah.
it? Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's why we like you so much, Lizzie, because you are a weirdo still.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
so we feel very comfortable with you. But you always bring that. There's always there's always a depth. There's always something which is so you can do all of that fun stuff and you can do the turn up, but you always get it. And I think that's something that we really appreciate about you and about working with you. So
Aw,
thank you
thanks.
for that. Do you have a favorite Ruffells moment? There have been so many.
Oh my God, there have been so many. You go first, and then I'll think about mine. What's your favorite Ruffells moment that we've had together?
Lizzie?
Yeah.
Oh man. Do you know, I think it's interesting. We'll sort of stay with where we've been so far, is that, when you're working through stuff, I think I've always worked through a lot of it. My private projects have all been about working through something or other.
Yeah.
And we shot a pilot once called the Boondocks Project.
Yeah.
And you were such an extraordinary actor in that. And I remember this one scene, you were working in a supermarket.
Yes.
Supermarket working person.
Shelf stacker. Yeah.
And there was an exchange between you and Tom Travella. And you just had the right amount of, I don't give a fuck, and I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to make you the idiot.
Yeah.
And Tom had the right amount of frustration. And I think it's moments like that, or even after the earthquakes, we did a series on earthquake renovations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they just seemed very, very easy because everybody turned up with the right intention. Everybody turned up to put their foot forward.
Yeah.
And it's always just, I think it's just effortless with you. And I think that's my overall big picture thing, is that it's always easy with Lizzie.
I reckon some of my most consistent sort of associations with you guys are coming in to do a voiceover and the actual recording, because I think we work pretty well together. So we'll smash that out and get a bunch of great options in maybe 20 minutes, but the visit is an hour because we have huge chats about all kinds of things. And then we're like, oh, have you seen this video, by the way? And sharing something stupid on YouTube. And then that is a very joyful thing.
So we can be colleagues and friends.
Yeah.
Lizzie's my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, you came to my wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, in a shiny silver jacket.
Yeah, it was very shiny. It was a shiny occasion.
It was.
A shiny occasion.
It was.
Lizzie, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
You've been a pleasure.
Oh,
How can we find you?
Well, if you want some beautiful circus variety, like yum festival corporate stuff in your life, Rollicking Entertainment is my company. And there's a website and a Facebook page. Or if you're like, hey, I'm into cool neurodivergence and like helping people do some stuff and I want to workshop on that, or I want to, help invest in a show, then I don't know, we'll flash up a thing on the screen.
Yeah, we'll put some links. We'll put links to your website. Great. We'll put links to are you Instagram and Facebook or any of that stuff, or mostly the website?
Yeah, mostly the website, but
mostly the website.
But a bit of socials action on there.
And the other thing is, anybody who sees this or listens to it can get in touch with us, and we'll just hook you up, because that's how we do.
That's how you do.
Awesome. Thanks, Lizzie.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, lady.